First thing I learned this morning is that free champagne is a perfect USP to get a room full of people on Friday morning. I'm going to try that as well with beer, but unfortunately we're not allowed to give away free beer. But maybe next time when we do the breakfast session, we do free craft beer, and we'll see how many people show up. I assume a bit more even than this. But for those of you who don't know Beerwulf yet, I will tell you a bit of short introduction, and I'll tell you how we try to create a culture of data-driven decisions. So we were founded in 2017. Tomorrow is actually our second anniversary, so big party there. And we were founded with the goal to unlock the world of beer. So there's a lot of craft breweries all across the world in little towns across Netherlands, and we found that we want to make all these different beers available to everyone. Firstly throughout Europe, but later on also maybe throughout the whole world. So we started in the Netherlands, and within 9 months we entered 5 different markets in Europe. We went from 6 to 45 employees in about 2 years' time. And recently we actually merged with a different company, and now we are over 80 employees. So that's a big, big achievement in 2 years, I would say. And the reason that we were founded is basically because we saw 2 disruptions. And I assume you all see it in the local bars, the local restaurants. Craft beer is a big thing. The breweries have been popping up all over the world. Currently we are over, I think, 18,000 craft breweries, official craft breweries over the world. And the second thing is, of course, the disruptions in digital we saw. So some other verticals paved the way for us. And now food and drink is also very much going into the e-commerce space. So the ambition of Beerwulf is to become the #1 in Europe and maybe later also in the world. And we want to be the best beer platform out there. So we want to bring brewers and drinkers together on our platform, tell the stories of the beer, and of course sell them. So how are we going to do that? And to answer that question, we obviously looked at the most important USP for any e-commerce business. And to us, the best thing, the biggest advantage is always data. The possibility to measure everything and to make data-driven decisions based upon that information. Because also when you look at the big companies, the Bookings, the Facebooks, what made them so great is the data. Basing their decisions on their own data. Not looking at other companies, but looking purely at what are our customers doing and why is it working for them and how can we improve. So what kept me up at night when I joined Beerwulf 1.5 years ago is how can we create that kind of culture where every decision we make is based on data. And even though I have the best job in the world, probably selling beer, this still kept me up at night a little bit after having a few beers. So we have a great team. We have talented, smart people, and we just recently added 40 people with the merge. But we have a really great team, and they're innovative people. They are talented, but some of them are not from the e-commerce world. So they are from. We have beer journalists, we have photographers, we have buyers, and they are not used to having data at their dispense. So we needed to create this certain behavior that also these kinds of people with different backgrounds, they use data to make decisions. So when I told my colleagues, you know how important data is, and companies that use data are the winning companies, they were like, I know. So, and then I asked them, okay, so you know how important data is. Do you use it to make decisions on a daily basis? So do you use data to inform your decisions? And they were like, ma. So this is really interesting to me. And obviously, the first question was, you know how important it is, but you don't use it for every decision. Why not? So there was a big list of responses to that question, and a lot of misconceptions about data. So people think it's hard to access, it's too difficult for them, it's not possible to get the data they want. So many obstacles to overcome before we could become a data-driven company. So to do that, we made a game plan, and this is a very simplified version. Basically 4 steps to becoming the #1 beer platform in Europe. So most important step, to start off with is making data easily accessible and insightful. So luckily, we have tools to do that. So basically, this was quite an easy step for us to make. We didn't have to do it all ourselves. We just worked together with several tools, of which ContentSquare is a very important one as well. And we have the data easily accessible and insightful. And what you see in our company is that the easier the data gets to use and the more insightful the data is, the higher the adoption rate. So people prefer to get their data where it's most easily available, where it's most insightful. And I can imagine that you think, what is insightful data? Well, an example of that is this heat map. So this is a heat map on the homepage. It was run 2 years ago, I think, and we saw a very clear case of the rainbow effect. So a lot of people dropping off basically below the page full. But what does this data actually tell you? Does it mean that this is a bad thing that people don't go there? How many people are there actually who don't go there? How many money will it cost me if they don't go there, etc., etc. So what you see in the office is that people are really crawling into their monitors and they are squinting their eyes and they say, I cannot see it. I don't know. What am I looking at? What can I learn from this? So what we do with ContentSquare is we get insightful data. Instead of only accessible data, make it also insightful. So we have the exposure rate. Good that Elise already showed a similar example, where you see that rainbow effect, so people drop off after the fold. Okay, all fine. But then if we can compare that with data on the conversion rate per click, then you can find that the valuable element at the bottom of the page is really interesting to us. And in this case, this was a €5 discount if you sign up to our newsletter. So it's not weird that it works well. But this really gives us insight into, okay, is this a valuable element? Am I missing out on extra revenue? So we also are able to see the revenue per click. And for us, the revenue per click on this element is €39. So this also makes a good case to my colleagues, because testing on a homepage, yeah, who really wants to do that? Nobody. Too many stakeholders involved, too many people having an opinion about the homepage. But if you show them that there's an element at the bottom of the page that's worth €39 per click, they are interested. So unfortunately, in this case, the data told me that I was wrong, and we moved it up, and actually there was no real improvement in conversion rate or revenue, but we saw different behaviors. So now we have the data easily accessible, it's insightful. Now what we need to do is coach, train, teach people how to use it, and more importantly, how to make the right decisions based on data, and how to prevent the wrong decisions to be made. And I assume you all know this Chinese proverb. Couldn't really find a proper source. So I also took the liberty to transform it a little bit to make it applicable for Beerwulf. So giving a man insights, help him for a day. Teach a man to use data and give him insights for a lifetime. For us, that's really important, because it's not feasible to provide with like 3 people, 80 people worth of insights. So we need to teach them and make sure that they understand it correctly, and yeah, to make it basically scalable in the upcoming growth of our organization. So how do we make sure that they learn it properly? First thing we tell our colleagues is always to look for the user experience. And bear in mind that this is across the entire organization. So this is also applicable to, for instance, our sourcers. So we have an assortment, and that is an assortment we design. For instance, 1,000 bottles. But in the user experience, we see that only 600 of these 1,000 are being sold, and 400 are never sold. And actually, via our feedback tool, we get a request for 200 different beers. So then the user experience in the sourcing department is really different than the actual design. So what we ask our colleagues to do is look for the best solution. So where can we improve the current user experience? Example of what we saw on site is where people landed on the pack overview page. They went to the detail page, and then back to the overview page, and they went back and forth, back and forth. So we're clearly comparing the different packs we offer. Whereas the only thing of additional information on that page is a list of all the beers included in the pack. So what we did is come up with a solution to improve that experience, and we give them the option to directly access the content of the pack on that lister page. In this case, it did work. I'm not going to show all failed experiments, because that would take all day. But this one did work, and in this way we were able to improve the user experience with the data we found. Another example of providing the right information at the right time is one in the checkout, where people in the first step had to enter all their data, and we saw that they actually, directly after entering random data, they went to the second step just to see which payment methods we offered. So again, we did an experiment and we saw an increase in conversion rate, and more importantly, I think, we saw a decrease in that behavior where people go to the second step to check which payment methods we offer and then go back. So we really improved that experience for these people. But decision making is not all about improving experiences and making the customer experience better, but it's also about preventing making the wrong decisions. So what we tell our colleagues also to look for is be wary that you don't make the wrong decision based on the data that you have. So this is our old office. Actually, we moved offices yesterday. So, but to me, that path you see there to the office is data. It's a data point where you see that people, instead of taking the paved way, they want to take a shortcut to get to the office quicker. So what we tell people, don't do this. Don't do it. What the building manager thought, okay, I'm going to put a nice fence there because people are walking across the grass. Instead, he should have made a paved way there to improve the user experience. But this is really important to find in the data what would be a wrong solution and what would be decreasing the user experience. So, on-site example for that, we did user testing and we heard a lot of people, they were not sure in the navigation, what does discover mean? What is actually behind that section? So a lot of people clicked it and they were like, okay, I'm not interested, or they went to discover the blogs we had there. So the assumption was, let's put in blog, because then to everybody it will be clear right away. Well, luckily we tested it, because the number of clicks on that menu item decreased by half. The conversion rate also decreased. So apparently that part of the website was adding value to the customer journey overall. So we prevented the wrong decision from being made. Now, data is insightful, it's accessible. We coached, trained people, we challenged them to look for data themselves, to look for improvements. Now, the decision is, of course, will they all make the right decision? And the answer, of course, is no. No, they won't. But luckily, we have a team with really talented people. We know how to make right decisions. We know how to prevent the wrong decisions from being made. We learn from mistakes. And most of all, most importantly, I think, is that we focus on our customers. And with that, I think Beerwulf will become the #1 platform, beer platform. That was it. Thank you.